I mean, James was charged with 2 counts, one for bank fraud and another for making false statements to a financial institution. But what that really means in layman's terms, I guess, is mortgage fraud. Now, if that is ringing a bell for you, that is because that has become the Trump ginned-up charge of choice, mortgage fraud. Trump appointed this guy, Bill Pulte, to be his little lackey over as the director of the Federal Housing Finance Agency. And even though that agency is in charge of monitoring the macro-level housing market to prevent another 2008-style crash, that is what their focus should be, Pulte has focused his energy on Trump's enemies instead. Finding their information, targeting them, making criminal referrals to the Justice Department against perceived Trump enemies like Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook, Democratic Senator Adam Schiff, and you guessed it, Letitia James. All of them referred criminally for, you guessed it again, mortgage fraud. Now, just this week, Reuters reported that Pulte actually violated his own agency's ethics rules when he made those criminal referrals. Referrals like that are supposed to go to an inspector general to make sure they aren't political. They just skipped that part. Why not? And sent his referrals straight to the Trump's Justice Department. Pulte, his agency, and the Justice Department all declined to comment on that story, no surprise, which is really too bad, because I would love to know how he justifies this. 4 of Trump's own cabinet members did the same thing on their mortgages that Pulte alleges Cook, Schiff, and James did. Trump's labor secretary, Lori Chavez DeRemer, Trump's transportation secretary, Sean Duffy, Trump's EPA administrator, Lee Zeldin, Trump's treasury secretary, Scott Bessent. They all did the exact same thing on their mortgages that the Trump Justice Department alleges that Letitia James did. But none of them have been indicted, at least as far as we know. Pulte hasn't criminally referred any of them for prosecution, and I'm not holding my breath, obviously. So this is where we are now. Trump has demanded his political enemies be prosecuted. He has removed an experienced career prosecutor for refusing to do so without evidence and replaced him with someone completely unqualified who was more than willing to do what those career prosecutors wouldn't. So yes, this is happening. And in all likelihood, it will keep happening. Trump has already said out loud that he has no plans to stop. After Comey was indicted, he gleefully said, quote, "There will be others," plural. Trump has made his long list of perceived enemies clear, and now there's no longer a question of whether he can get his Justice Department to actually go after them. But just remember, he's doing it because he is thin-skinned and petty and weak. And the only person actually signing these indictments for him is a beauty queen turned insurance lawyer who is way out of her depth. Starting us off tonight is Democratic Congressman Dan Goldman of New York. He's a member of the House Judiciary Committee and a former assistant U.S. attorney in the Southern District of New York. Congressman, I tried to do my best to summarize things there. You are a former prosecutor. You are very familiar with law and what it takes to prosecute a case and all of these politicized indictments and efforts to go after enemies. Let me first just ask you for your reaction to this news today. Not surprising, but what's your reaction?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head, Jen, and that recitation is very important and very accurate, not only just to outline the so obvious vindictive and selective prosecution, that direct message, which was a direction to Pam Bondi to charge his political enemies, very clearly wasn't intended to be out in the open, but because it is, we now have absolute evidence that Donald Trump is targeting his enemies. The thing that just strikes me about this, and we've now seen it with Director Comey, is this is the bedrock foundation of democracy. When the United States goes around the world to promote democracy, to promote global stability and economic development and prosperity, it all centers first and foremost on not corruptly prosecuting enemies and adversaries in other countries. And Donald Trump has not only done it once, he is now doing it again over the objection of the people who actually know the case. And that is truly remarkable, and it's a very, very disconcerting and sad day for those of us who have worked at the Department of Justice and who, while working there, cared so much about the independence And that was so essential to the work that we did, the work that the FBI does, and the work that our criminal justice system does. Because if our criminal justice system is politicized, then we have no democratic foundation to stand on.
And we are there. It is being politicized. And people in the Justice Department are all experiencing that. We've seen that with mass resignations and firings. Let me ask you, this is a part of a pattern, as you've just outlined and I discussed as well. And we saw yesterday how Comey's lawyers responded. I mean, after his defense team they said they intend to file 2 motions to dismiss the case before it goes to trial. One is for vindictive prosecution. The other is an argument that Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully appointed. And legal experts, of course, are saying that's because nobody else in the office put their names on the indictment. I mean, she did these by herself. What do you think? Do you think we've seen a model from Trump? Do you think that's a model for Letitia James's lawyers in terms of how she could respond or how they could respond in the coming weeks?
Oh, absolutely. They will throw the book at DOJ, and you have in black and white the President of the United States directing the Attorney General to indict his political adversaries. If there is ever a case, I should say, of vindictive or selective or political prosecution, I can't imagine one that would be better than this unless you might have him on videotape doing it. But I guess in the Trump world, a videotape of a $50,000 cash bribe for someone who's in his administration is reason to close a case, but a bogus and very selective prosecution is a reason to go forward with the case. The thing that really jumped out to me about Comey's arraignment yesterday was not the motions, which we expected, not him saying not guilty, which is pretty standard.
We knew.
It's the fact that they could not find a single prosecutor in the Eastern District of Virginia who would actually handle this case. They had to bring in 2 people from the North Carolina office because no one from the Eastern District of Virginia would put his or her name on that case. And I will say tonight, and I urge every single assistant United States attorney across this country, you have to stand up for your oath of office. You have to stand up for the Constitution. It is daunting. You may get fired. But I promise you, the legal profession will reward you for doing the right thing. And doing the right thing is why you took that job, why you took that oath. And you cannot concede to that in this attack on our Department of Justice and our rule of law.
And I expect they all will continue to be tested. Trump himself has suggested that. Congressman Dan Goldman, thank you so much for joining us.